The research is about understanding the drivers of livelihood activities in the illicit drugs trade, specifically for small-scale farmers in cultivating illicit opium poppy in northeast India, and also for people engaged in low to mid-level roles in the urban illicit drugs trade in marginalised peripheral areas of Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. It's also about understanding the impacts of drug control policies for these communities through their own experiences, and to draw on the suggestions of these affected communities for developing policy recommendations. So the main finding is that despite the vast differences between these contexts, poverty, inequality, and the pursuit of livelihood security in this context, as well as a desire for social mobility and status, combined with a lack of alternative opportunities and state support, are all primary drivers of low-level engagement in the illicit drugs trade in both the research locations. Also, that punitive drug control policies such as forced crop eradication and criminalisation, perhaps unsurprisingly, have a substantial impact on the vulnerability of these small-scale farmers and small-scale drug dealers. This further constrains people's livelihood opportunities and security, and impacts women disproportionately to men in both countries. In this way, policies which criminalise livelihood strategies for vulnerable marginalised farmers and urban communities who engage in the drugs trade amounts to the criminalisation of poverty, essentially. So this is important, particularly for highlighting the need for policy reform to address the socio-economic drivers of reliance on illicit drug activity for these marginalised communities. It's also important to provide evidence for advocacy for ending the harmful impacts of current punitive drug policies, such as through reforms such as crop eradication and moving towards the decriminalisation of these small-scale activities. And in particular, we need to understand how and why the inclusion and participation of the affected communities and local and national development actors who have been absent traditionally from these areas will be essential in these processes.